Hi, Sujatha. Thank you for joining me today for a discussion about your career in recognition of International Women's Day. Today we'll be talking about your career, the highs, the lows, and the challenges. And it's just to get a little bit of an idea of what goes on within women in banking. So to start off, I'd just like to ask your job title and what you do in your role.
At the outset, thank you so much for having invited me to participate in this event. It means a lot. And since it is an event of a kind, so I haven't experienced it before. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
I'm with Bank of England currently, working with the Prudential Policy Directorate. Prior to that, I have been with commercial banking for close to 21 years, having started in 2001. And have worked across various functions and role and capacities in the commercial banking from 2000 to
Okay.
2022. Then I decided to pursue higher education. So I chose University of Birmingham for my study destination. I did my MBA in Global Banking and Finance from the University of Birmingham. And after that, I did apply for a role or assignment in a policy which God has been kind, and currently I'm working with Prudential Policy.
Okay. And what has your career pathway been like?
Yes, to give you a brief about my qualification, I'm an accountant and company secretary by qualification.
Okay.
So I did my graduation in commerce from India, from University of Calcutta. Then I did my accounting, and then I finished my CS, company secretary. I started my career as a management trainee in an equity analyst firm called India Infoline, where I was responsible for handling the equity portfolio of the listed companies back home in India. So I was called an equity analyst. So I was a management trainee. So in 99 2000, and then I joined the commercial bank, having worked
Yeah.
in government sector, private sectors, and foreign bank as well, and in various capacities like risk management, treasury, internal audit, and all the control functions. I also have an exposure in the branch banking operation because that is where I learned the how the banking is done,
Yeah.
what is the customer expectation from the banker or from the branch manager, how to define the market, how to
Yeah.
understand the customer's behavior, preferences, choice, and demand, and the knowledge about the banking products. So that was quite a good experience. Uh,
Yeah.
and after this,
Sounds like you've worked
once I
in
build up on that, I moved to a control function.
Okay. Sounds like you've worked in lots of different areas then in banking.
Yeah, it's been over 2 decades. So, and
Yeah, of course.
uh, in a bank, we used to have some 3 years or 5 years job rotation policy, depending on
Oh, okay.
depending on the department or the division you are in. For some division,
Hmm.
it will be 3 years. And for some
Okay.
technical division like treasury or balance sheet management group or risk management, it will be for 5 years. So
Okay. Yeah.
I was put into the branch banking operation. But after 3 years, I gradually moved into see, branch banking operation consists of deposit and and the asset, the liability and asset
Okay.
aspect of balance sheet, bank balance sheet. So I handle that. So once I learned the trick of trade there, so they slowly moved me into a banking operation
Yeah.
from
Okay.
the regional office and the and in India, what we have is we have a branch office, although it depends from one bank to another. But normally the structure is like you have a branch office, you have a zonal office, zone, east,
Hmm.
west, north, south. Then we have the regional office. Like for example, suppose if you are handling the western region of India, in western region there will be 5 or 6 regional office.
Okay.
So I was a part of that. I worked for the regional office as well. And then I moved my transition to head office of the bank. Headquarter is what we call. So I have seen, the customer at the ground level at the branch banking. I have seen
Yeah.
the banking operation takes place like at the backstage in the hindsight. What
Yeah.
are the things which goes into processing any transactions or the settlement? And I
Yeah.
once I moved to an headquarter, I also like been a part of the risk management function, like internal control, credit risk management, market risk management, treasury risk, um, and how do insulate and isolate bank balance sheet from the liquidity risk, capital risk. So I've seen fairly every aspects of whatever item you talk about in bank balance sheet of the bank. I've seen almost every aspect of it. I don't claim to know everything, but yes, I have
Yeah.
an exposures of. I've been given an exposure of each and every item of the
Yeah.
balance sheet. So it has been
What
quite
would you say has
a
been
journey.
your favorite aspect of it that you've worked in?
Um, it is a little unfair because it is not like a movie or a
Yeah,
play
of course.
where you can pick a single out only one movie. This is my
Yeah.
favorite or this is my favorite actor. So every in bank it is little unfair because every department had taught me something or the other, and you will
Yeah.
understand. So once you are in a bank, every department is interlinked, intertwined. So one
Okay.
department cannot work in silo.
Yeah, of
So
course.
if you ask me what does the bank mean? What does banking mean? So banking is very simple. We make it complicated. So banking is basically acceptance of deposit for the purpose of lending and investment. So
Okay.
if you walk into the bank branch, what branch managers day to day, quintessentially what they do is they will take deposit from Rebecca and give it to Sujata.
Okay,
And
yeah.
give means lending. So this is basically the bank's model, right? So when I'm taking deposit from you, that will sit on the liability side because I have to
Mhm.
pay it back to
Yeah.
customers, whether it is a term deposit or whether it is a demand deposit. Demand deposit in UK, I think it is called side deposit, which is a savings
Okay.
account. You walk into the bank branch and you take your money out. Okay. And then I'm lending. So I have seen the deposit part and I have seen the lending part of it, which gave
Yeah.
me, which came handy when I was actually handling the risk management of it. So as a branch
Okay. Yeah.
manager, I'm supposed to do the business. I had to do that strategy. I had to develop a strategy. I had to develop a market segmentation. I had to understand the customer. So that was one aspect of my banking. So when I
Yeah.
moved to an operation, and in India, branch manager, for all intent and purpose, is the CEO of a bank. He has to handle deposit. He has to handle credit. He has to handle audit. If there is any audit observation, he has to address that. He has to handle the risk management. He has to satisfy the customer. So customer service is also very important. He has to understand the product to be able to deliver seamlessly and conveniently to customers. So for all intent and purpose, branch manager is a very important person in India. And I'm sure even in UK or Europe or any part of the world, this is the quintessential job of a branch manager.
Yeah.
So when I was doing that, so I was basically a part of a control function. At the same time, I was a part of a business. So there was an element of first line of defense and the second line of defense.
Yeah.
But when I moved to a control function completely, I understood the importance of the second line of defense, which is the risk management and the compliance. And when I moved to an audit function, I understood the third line of defense, which is an audit function. But
Yeah. Okay.
but the concept, how the concept is developed in India. You cannot be a good compliance officer or a good risk officer or a good audit officer unless you know how the banking is done.
Yeah.
To be able to control anything, you need to know how the things are done, right? Otherwise, you can never plug the loopholes. So the point was the learning and the lessons that I had from working in a bank or a branch operation as a branch operation manager, or even in the banking operation division in the regional office or the zonal office. That learning came handy when I was handling the risk management profile, when I was devising the risk management policy for the bank or the framework for the bank. So every department was intertwined and every department contributed to my learning. But
Yeah.
particularly, I was interested in the risk management, the treasury part of it,
Okay.
uh,
Yeah.
and the governance. because I'm a company
Okay.
secretary, so I can understand the compliance and the governance aspect of banking. So these
Yeah.
are few areas I was particularly interested in, but it's very unfair to single out any
One
one
single thing,
division.
yeah. Okay. What sort of challenges would you say you faced from coming into your career right at the start up until now?
There have been many, and and it started with my confusion, whether I want to become a banker or somebody
Of
else.
course. Yeah.
Because I wanted to pursue liberal arts, which is a
Okay.
mix of, it's a combination of arts, which is the humanities, a combination of science. We pick up some subjects
Hmm.
from science, pick up some subjects from humanities, pick up some subjects from commerce, and it you
Yeah.
you're liberal to, you're free to choose the subject you want. But those
Yeah.
days, it wasn't an option, quite an option. People were not aware of what liberal arts are. There were not enough good colleges or universities in India offering the course. I come from a family of bankers. Um, so uh, I should not say it came to me naturally, but yes, I knew about the terminology, since I was growing up, because since my family is from banking industry, so people, whoever used to visit us during the weekend were invariably from a bank. So invariably our conversation will be like, what is happening these days in banking? What are the challenges you are facing? you know
Yeah.
what are the new things being introduced in the bank? So those kind of discussions, I used to listen to. I
Yeah.
wasn't understanding growing up, but yeah, it was a part of my, it became some knowingly, unknowingly, a part of my living or learning. So
Yeah.
when I passed my class 12 exams, which we call A level in UK.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so my father was telling me, what do you want to do? So I was like, one day I will say I want to become a musician. The next day I will say I want to become an economist. Third day, the same question being asked, I will say I want to become, I want to study geography. I want to, sort of. And then my father is like, every day I'm asking you the same question, but your answer changes. Do you have any inner calling? I said, I really don't know what I want to do. So that was my first challenge. I was not knowing what I want to do in life.
Yeah.
Then my father, being an accountant and from a banking background, said, why don't you try an account? I said, okay. I've studied commerce. It's a Bachelor of Commerce. In UK, what we call BSc in Accounting and Finance. In India, it is called
Yeah.
Bachelor of Commerce. So I said, okay, I did it. So accountant comes naturally to me. So I will be. So I did my accounts. And then my father said, like, if you really want to understand the trick of trade, if you really want to understand commerce, then there is no institution like banking. And I'm not telling you, Sujata, because I'm a banker. There is no bias when I'm suggesting you to try banking. But if you really want to learn, because banking has everything. You want to learn accounts, you want to learn finance, you want to learn balance sheet, anything to do with trade. If you want to finance anybody who is into trade business, export and import, you have to understand a bit element of it. So my father said, why don't you try banking? And if you don't like it, you always have the option to back off. I said, okay. So I wrote an exam. So I joined the public sector bank. Then I was put, then everybody was telling, like, what do you want to, and in those days, there were like not many women who were coming into bank because it was perceived as a masculine domain, as a male domain.
Yeah.
So there were not many women who were coming to bank. So for bank to give me any profile, it was initially a challenge for the bank, which profile to
Yeah.
give me. While as a woman, I was okay with anything because I was not knowing anything and I was barely 19 or 20 years when I started my career. So
Mm.
whatever come my way, I will take it. I will grab the opportunity. But for them, it was a challenge whether they want to put me to a branch banking. Because for branch manager, in UK it may be different, but in India there is no fixed timing of leaving the bank. So you may leave office at 6 in the evening, or you may have to leave office at 9 in the evening. So there was a
Yeah.
sort of a challenge, like whether you will be able to do it. You have a family, you have to have a work-life balance.
Of course.
So
Yeah.
initially, out of enthusiasms and interest, when you are young, you don't think too much. You just said yes. Yes, I will do.
Yeah.
So gradually, when I joined branch banking, and in India, we used to have annual closing in the month of March and the half yearly closing in the month of September. Okay. And as we, every year, January, February was the peak time. So I used to come back home at 9:30, 10 o'clock.
Wow.
So there was no
Yeah.
work-life balance, so to say, that point of time.
Yeah.
And then I was telling myself, now I understand why they were telling me whether I will be okay to work in a branch banking. I understand the workload.
Yeah.
Because family life, because if I'll come back home, I'll finish dinner, go off to bed. Next morning,
Yeah.
again, get ready, and be at office. The office will be
Yeah.
from 9 to 5, technically, but the work pressure was such, and the customers, and where the customers are till 4 o'clock. After 4 o'clock, you have to reconcile all the balances and accounts. So that will take another
Mhm.
2-3 hours. Then we will have a review meeting with the team. So it will take at least half an hour or 1 hour. So 4 to
Yeah.
7 will be the reconciliation and all the pending work which you haven't done because you were addressing the customers' issues, managing customers, managing branch bank, managing staff. So 4 o'clock when the customer hours ends, your actual work starts. So from
Yeah.
4 to 7, sometimes 4 to 6:30 or 7 o'clock, 7:30, it will go, and then you will have a team review meeting for the next day. You have to prepare. So
Okay.
initially, managing a work-life balance was little difficult. Uh, but my family was supportive. Here, I want to make a very important statement. Your family, your friends, and inner circle, whoever your inner circles are, they have to be supportive. Otherwise,
Okay.
every day, it's every day. It is not possible to come back home at 9. And especially somebody who was very passionate banker, I started loving the job. So I used to finish the work, which can be done tomorrow, but I will finish it today
Yeah.
and then go. So that work-life balance, maintaining that work-life balance initially was a challenge and I fell sick. So
Okay.
there I learned the more important lesson. Nothing in your life is more important other than your health.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
you should know when to switch on and switch off. So
Mhm.
once you are in office, you are completely 100%, more than 100% you are devoted to the office work.
Yeah.
But once you step out, nothing, nothing to do with office. You
Yeah.
are Rebecca in the personal capacity, not as a
Yeah.
bank. That time I made the mistake, so that was that this is something I would not like anyone to do. You be a
Mm.
passionate banker, you love your job, but you should know how to draw where to draw a line.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing it. So I fell sick and health is very important.
Yeah.
Second
Definitely.
biggest challenge which I faced, see, when I started my career, there was an Asian, I think East Asian financial crisis in 1999. In 2007 and 8, we all know, I don't know whether you were working then, the Lehman Brothers, the global financial crisis event in 2007 and 8. Uh,
No.
so I had to, I was a part of treasury and risk management. And that point of time, it was called, I was not wholly handling the treasury part. I was holding the the policy division of the bank. And
Okay.
when the global financial crisis happened, the panic started among customers. Unlike today,
Yeah.
where everything is on social media, on Twitter or on Instagram, where you know whether the bank is crashing or not, and in a fraction of second you take your money out. Those days
Yeah.
that wasn't the case. That pressure wasn't there, but there was a pressure of there were the pressure in the sense the management took a call that there will not be any disbursement. Business has to be put on hold because there was a lot of uncertainty. We were not knowing where we are heading to. There was a capital issue because if you lend for lending also you have to raise capital, and that time the market wasn't conducive enough to raise capital for the bank, although we were successful in raising capital at that point of time. So that was a huge challenge. There are a lot of other niceties that went into raising the capital, which I'm not getting into in the interest of time. I can always take it offline. Yeah, so that
Yeah.
was that was a challenge, raising the capital, putting the disbursement, lending on hold.
Yeah.
Not many people were willing to keep money in the bank. People who were like the general public who are not too conversant with the banking niceties, they were not willing to. So convincing them that your bank is safe, please come and put the money in. It was difficult. So we were working round the clock, including Saturday and Sundays, just to give an assurance to customers that your money is safe. Don't pull the money out of the bank. And we
Yeah.
kept the branch deliberately open on Saturday and Sunday, just to tell, just to signal out that your branch is safe. We are not running away. See, this is a branch banking.
Yeah.
It's open even on Saturday and Sunday. So if you are comfortable coming to bank branch and withdraw your money on Saturday and Sunday as well, you can do it.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was the challenge. And then we had to lay off certain employees
Yeah.
who were, when there was an overlapping.
Okay.
And so when the bank goes through, when the economy goes through a crisis, bank also need to do a lot of cost cutting. And that point of time, the things which were never discussed during the happy time, which is a performance improvement plan, uh, you know, the 360 review of the employees, those things
Mm.
starts getting discussed once
Okay.
once there is a crisis, because bank need to find an avenue to cut cost, and human resource
Yeah.
is also one of the huge cost. So the questions like performance improvement plan, who are not performing well, who are rated little below the grade, they were
Yeah.
politely asked to give. Obviously, they were given compensation, but they were asked to leave, which wasn't a happy feeling. But we had to take
Yeah.
that call and do it. And there I learned the second important lesson in life. Never ever say no to any job that come your way. Never say
Okay.
no. Whether you like the job, you do not like the job. So when I was given treasury, when I was given branch banking operation, when I was given capital, or when I was given governance profile, any profile that came my way, I never said no. So what happened was, indirectly and unknowingly, I made myself indispensable to the bank.
Yeah.
Philosophically, nobody is indispensable in life. But for that point of time, they knew that if I sack Sujata, replacing Sujata, who were doing many things, is difficult.
Mm. Yeah.
And since she was handling so many things, and she understands, she can connect the dots, she understands the linkage between different profile, Sujata is not
Mm.
the person we will chuck.
Yeah.
And I realized 8 years later, after the start of my career, that you should never say no to the job, any job that come your way, whether you like it, whether you don't like it. You never know when your knowledge or when your effort bear fruit the later part of your life, or in the even like global financial crisis, when there is a cost
Mm.
cutting, and who should be asked to leave, and I wasn't. I had an
Yeah.
uninterrupted career for over 20 years.
Mm.
Uninterrupted. I survived crisis, and I survived the in 2016 we had what you call is, there is a concept called demonetization, where the
Okay.
government of India in 2016 took a call that the currency will be out of circulation, and the note
Okay.
will stop becoming a legal tender. And it has a lot of the financial crime, economic crime element to it, where you have to report
Mm.
to the crime agency, national crime agency, how many deposits are there, how many people have deposited to the bank, how many lending took place, whether the account which were never being active or never being utilized by the customer, had it become suddenly active or not. So from
Okay.
8th of November 2016 to 31st of December 2017, we worked 1.5 months. I worked around the clock. Obviously, the team worked around the clock, but since it is our one-to-one conversation, I'm addressing it as I.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I worked around the clock for 1.5 months. So that was another challenging. To understand, when the new things come up, you have to understand the law, you have to understand the regulation. You then you have to take everyone into confidence. Then you have to make people understand what does the law entails, what is the expectation from the bank, or what is the expectation from the government for bank staff to act.
Mm.
So these are the challenge. These are, it doesn't, at a superficial level, it sounds very okay. It's a part of your job. You have to learn new things. You have to
Mm.
understand it, and then you have to make people understand. But when you are on that job, and when you have been given a deadline, understanding the law at that point of time, immediately making it simpler for other people, the audience, who are not a part of that particular profile, understand, and then expect them to deliver the way you expect them to deliver.
Yeah.
It should be as per your expectations. That was quite challenging, quite. And
Okay.
the fourth challenge was the COVID.
Yeah, of
So that is the
course.
challenge all across for across sectors, not just the bankers. So I lost quite a
Yeah,
good friends there. The people because branch banking in India, we didn't keep the branch close because it's a customer facing job, right?
yeah,
So the people who are in the customer facing role, they were asked to come to office every day, and I lost quite a few friends. The branch manager, uh, even the people who are not working in the branch but working in the headquarter because of
yeah,
COVID. So seeing them die and having an untimely death because you are serving the customers, you feel that point of time, you feel that you have been martyred, like an army
yeah,
officer, anybody like trying to serve the customers or trying to, keep the wheel of the economy moving in the country. Because banking is one of the industry which people say it is a proxy of the country's economy. So whether if you want to know whether the country is doing well or the economy is doing well, just look at the bank balance sheet. You will know whether the credit growth is muted, whether there is enough deposit mobilization, right? So
yeah,
that point of time, it wasn't a very good feeling that the colleague who I have worked with closely for years together have passed away. But you have to take everything in stride and move on in life. So, and the challenges like women in banking, I didn't face that challenge, to be very honest, because I was fortunate to be at the right time at the right place, and the fact that I never said no, that I can't do it, even if it entails working till late evening.
yeah,
Uh, uh, so so and those days in early 2000s, even 20 years ago, the people will not be inclusive, or oh, she is a woman, so for women's like sky is the limit, or there is a ceiling, you can't do it. But I believe one thing: if you are good at work, if you're good at work, if you
hmm,
maintain good relation with your boss and his stakeholders, and if you're flexible enough, I should not say that you
yeah,
should not say no. Sometimes it is very important to say no as well. But if you're
yeah,
flexible enough and working and contributing towards the building of a bank, or the making of a bank and the building of a nation, I don't think you will be deprived of your dues and credit.
yeah. It's good to hear when there's obviously the challenges, but there's positives that come with that as well. So it's good. Um, what would you say has probably been a high in your career, like the best part of your career so far, just to go in contrast with your challenges?
Best part is that I turned all my colleagues into friends now. So they are my friends. They are no longer my colleague. Because at
Yeah,
the end of the day, when you retire, when you sit back, when you look back your career, you really don't remember how many deals you have closed successfully, or how many
yeah,
credit you have underwritten successfully, or how many deposits you have taken from the public. What you remember, how many friends or how many colleagues colleagues turn friend you have made in your life, and what you have
yeah,
learned from them. Because since I worked across various departments over a period of time, without any interruption, without any career break or sabbatical, I've got plenty of anecdotes, to sit back and reflect on. Oh, these happen because I have involved in merger and acquisition. I have involved in capital raising. I have involved myself in the compliance, in the governance, um, branch banking and operations. So every department taught me something, and every department I have made a good friends and colleague. So that is one
yeah,
thing that I will take away from my long journey. Secondly, in those days, technology wasn't as it is today. Artificial intelligence wasn't there. There was a real intelligence,
yeah,
you know. I've worked with some of the veterans in banking, so I've learned a lots and lots from them, which now I'm trying to apply. So when I'm in the central bank, there is no particular high as such, but yes,
yeah,
my team had been my asset. It's been fantastic. My line manager, my bosses were very supportive. So whatever I wanted to know, whatever I wanted to learn, they haven't stopped me from growing or learning new things. Or if I want to move to some department, which is unusual, because not every time you get to say yes.
yeah.
Uh,
I think
uh,
it must be really helpful knowing that you've got a team and boss and stuff around you that you know that will be able to support you and stuff all the time.
Yeah, these are the, see, you create a memory. It doesn't matter what you have learned in, because at the after you retire, nobody cares which profile,
Yeah.
fancy title you held. But how
Yeah.
you touch the life of people and how you touch the life of customers, borrower, it does matter. And I think I've done reasonably well on that front.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for speaking with me today. You've given me some really interesting insights into your career. Thanks.
Thank you so much for having me.